Hi, my name is Amy Lukes, and today I'm talking about the Blood of Eden series by Julie Kagawa. I'm also going to talk about metaphors. Metaphors are extremely important both for writing a series and for reading a series. Metaphors can completely change the way you look at a story, and I'm going to tell you how to build them today. And I'm going to use two different metaphors for this series. We're going to talk about sex and self-harm. So if you can't handle those subjects right now, stop the video. I won't judge. So this is about turning an entire aspect of a character or a story into a metaphor, so you can forget what your English teacher told you. Metaphors are more than just a simile that's missing the word like or as. In order to build a metaphor, you need two things: a message and evidence. As a reader, you build evidence for your metaphor, and at the end of the story, you decide what the message is. As a writer, you decide what the message is, and then you put evidence into your story. Now, the thing about this is, a writer doesn't have to intend for the metaphor to be there. There just has to be a message and evidence. For example, I don't think Julie Kagawa intended for Allison and Zeke's romantic relationship to be a metaphor for abstinence, but there it is. Let's start with sex. Kagawa's vampires deal with something that we call the hunger with a capital H. Allison often refers to this as the demon or the monster inside of her. Allison can choose to give in to this demon and feed off of someone, likely killing them in the process, or she can control it. On top of that, vampires who feed off of each other experience an intense amount of pain. This is often called a needless torture. But vampires who are emotionally close enough and have an intimate enough bond can feed off of each other painlessly. Several times during the series, Allison feeds off of Zeke both as a human and as a vampire, which is used to build romantic intimacy between the two. Most importantly, they also feed off of each other during a sex scene, which as far as metaphors go, is pretty damning parallel. But what's the message? Probably that sex is physically and emotionally painful if you're not with the one right person, and that your sexual desire is a demon that needs to be controlled. Now, I don't necessarily jive with that message, and I don't assume that Julie Kagawa believes in that either. But the author doesn't have to intend for a metaphor to be there. It just means that the reader can use that metaphor. Okay, on to self-harm. The evidence that vampirism is a metaphor for self-harm is pretty intriguing. It runs with some of the same evidence that the sex metaphor does, that Allison's demon inside of her is her will to hurt herself, but that's where the similarities end. Many people who self-harm struggle with how they view themselves because of their illness. Both Allison and Zeke do the same. They know that at some point they will probably kill someone, even by accident, and people who self-harm have trouble with the idea that they're going to have to deal with this for the rest of their lives. They're going to have to be on guard against hurting themselves for the rest of their lives. Allison, Connie, and Jackal have all accepted the knowledge that they get to choose what kind of monster they get to be. That is, that self-harm is not the sole thing that defines them, that they can work against their desires or give in to them. Using vampirism as a metaphor for self-harm turns this story into one that is about the struggle to know that you are changed forever, but that you can still do good, not only for others, but also for yourself. It turns this story into one that fights for the idea that irreversible change is not irreparable damage, and that those of us with monsters inside of us should still be valued. Maybe it's just my own experience as someone who deals with self-harm, but I found Allison's journey very comforting. And I found the way that the humans treated the vampires to be very familiar, which is unfortunate but understandable considering the world we live in. But that's the thing about metaphors. They can turn clones or vampires or a magical school that has a squid living in the lake into something that you use to get through the day. So read the Blood of Eden series. This is the first book. The author is Julie Kagawa, and I will see you guys next week.